Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's NCCoE Learning Series webinar, Introduction to the National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, or NCCoE. My name is Daniel Elliott, and I'm part of the Outreach and Communications team at the NCCoE, and I will be your moderator today. I do want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. Now, we do look forward to your questions today, and so please use the WebEx Q&A feature to submit your questions, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. Please recognize we might not be able to get to all of them in the time allotted, but we will definitely do our best. And so without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our guest speaker here, Bill Newhouse, who's a cybersecurity engineer at the NIST National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. And Bill, I will pass over the control to you.
Taking control within the WebEx. Thank you, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time with us. And an introduction is in the title of what we're doing, but probably, and I hope some of you have already met us a little bit, but different ways you can engage with us, to me, and it makes it important to kind of come back every once in a while and describe ourselves so you can think of the other possibilities for you, for your colleagues, and how to engage and what it means to work with the center or to pay attention to our work or to leverage our work. So who we are a solution-driven collaborative hub addressing complex cybersecurity problems. The cool parts about this that I like is the complex cybersecurity problems. NIST has had a long history. We claim 50 years of history. The word cybersecurity hasn't been used that long, but computer security, information security, cryptographic security, all these kinds of things we've been part of for 50 years. And so our skill and ability to provide guidance and standards and to work on those ecosystems has a long track record. In the last decade, we've been pushing that track record into an applied cybersecurity center where we focus on bringing people together and working on those challenges together and taking standards, sometimes NIST standards, sometimes others, and demonstrating to folks that the technologies that we have available to us can allow us to support our cybersecurity needs and that those standards are achievable. As I mentioned, NIST is a National Institute of Standards and Technology. We used to be called the Bureau of Standards, and we are a non-regulatory part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And the NCCoE has access to what I've described as a foundation of expertise, resources, and most importantly, relationships and experience through those relationships to help develop cybersecurity guidance and standards. So that's the important part of who we are. We sit within a larger, NIST as a bigger institute has other sciences it focuses on. We sit within the Information Technology Laboratory. We're one of seven. We're in one of 7 divisions, the Applied Cybersecurity Division, and we are one part of that Applied Cybersecurity Division. Other parts you may be familiar with in our Applied Cybersecurity Division is our Digital Identities Guidance Team that just put out an update to 800-63 Digital Identities Guidelines into a Rev 4. Our NICE team, National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, our Cybersecurity Framework team, our Privacy Framework team, and I'm sure I'm leaving out at least one other group, but that's who we are, and we sit within the context of a larger laboratory that has focuses on software assurance and other aspects of networking and access to information. The word information is key to everything we do, and we're the part that's focused on showing people how to provide the cybersecurity and mitigate cybersecurity risk. Next slide, please. What we do, collaborate is a big word. Modular, repeatable, applied cybersecurity architectures. We are a facility that has labs, and in our labs, we are building things. And what do we build? Well, we try to build things that demonstrate, again, that existing standards can be met. So standards that focus on security, we can show you that the technologies you could procure today are allowing us to enable those standards and show you how, and we document that. We can work through existing guidance. So NIST has a lot of, this is a good way to do this technology introduction. We can follow that. We can also follow open source guidance that comes from other communities. And then the focus is on commercially available technologies. So what we demonstrate and build in our laboratories is technologies that anybody should be able to procure. It's not a beta version of something that's only available to us or only available to the government. It is technology that should be available and is available to anyone. Now, I'll continue from that point of view, but those are the actions of what we do is we come together and we build things in our laboratories. And next I'll start to talk to you about who gets to come with us and how we do that journey together. Next slide, please. So the guidance that we work to we develop publications, and I'll talk about those in a little moment, but the areas that we can focus on are all of them, in the sense that there are technologies that we can focus on, there are sectors where those technologies can make the biggest impact. So we look to address cybersecurity challenges, the most pressing cybersecurity challenges that our work together with industry can help a sector address a challenge, or if we do it by technology, that the cross-cutting ability of this technology to support all the sectors is important, and us working with others to show you the value of doing something together, and then how it works together. That's important to us. So we reach out into each of these groups. I've done projects in particular in retail and hospitality, which are not sectors that NIST as a non-regulatory agency has any direct, we have no authority over any of these groups, but in those places, we've relied in the past on people voluntarily adopting our standards from NIST. That's still true here. We're taking that voluntary adoption and offering more examples as a potential to get more people to wish to adopt the standards and the best practices that we're aware of and that we work with other communities on. So I'm also at the center of the lead for financial services sector focus. And when I say that, if you look across the technology list that's sitting there, applied cryptography, we have a project in migration to post-quantum cryptography in there. That is vital to the whole of our economy and every interaction on the internet at some level. Financial services is very motivated in that space. So I'm going to bring a use case from them to that project. Same is true in areas like zero trust architectures. Anybody who's going to be able to use 5G to enable their business, to enable the economy, and to enable their mission, they will benefit from what we learn as we put together a 5G cybersecurity system with all the real world technologies here in our lab environments. And there's other examples I'm not quite hitting on. And then, the sectors are important. If you're part of a sector, we can help connect you with others in the sector. We're a glue that brings people together. And frankly, we rely on folks who come to us to introduce us to others so that we don't miss parts of each of these sectors and how they wish to focus on cybersecurity. Within energy, for instance, we've been starting some collaborations with the Department of Energy directly, and some other work that we did based on the sector coming to us and different parts saying we need to do something together. And that's true also in healthcare and all these sectors. So next slide, please. Our approach, okay, this is a graphic to say these are the things that are important to us. For every project, we define the project, we have a scope, we work with industry to identify what that project is, what the need is, what's the challenge that we wish to address, what risk can we mitigate by building something together. So we identify the challenge and we define it. And as we do that, we offer the public opportunities to engage, because we put everything out at first as a draft for public comment. And we hope we get your attention at some level to say, hey, we have a paper on a particular topic area, manufacturing, cybersecurity, for instance. And if this is your space, we'd love to know if this definition of a project we'd like to start makes sense to you. You can help us make it better. Assembling teams and assembling systems are two of the things we do. The assembling teams I'll talk about a little bit more, but we invite technology providers of software and hardware and some expertise if they're big in a sector to come join us and help us be the team that collaborates together. So we form a team NIST-led with my teammates here at the center. We have project leads, and then we reach out and invite folks in through a legal process we call cooperative research and development agreements. And then once we have the team together, we're building. So those gray boxes are the big things we do. While we're doing this, we're collaborating the whole time because we're trying to make sure we reach out and find out what the problem is to work on. And as we define it, we're trying to collaborate with more people to find out, did we describe it in a way that's valuable to you? What we're going to do, what we plan to do, what we'd like to do will inspire people to come join us. And then as we've got people together, we can double up the message and triple, basically expand from our collaboration out into the different communities that each of the members of the collaboration already have. And then as we build it and publish it, we're sharing and asking for feedback. So again, another draft publication comes out at the end that says we have a practice that solves a particular challenge, and here's what we did. And Then documenting it happens all along. We can show you what we've done, where we've been, and where we're going through that documentation process. And then advocate and educate is to get the goodness of what we've done together out in front of people so that people can make better decisions or have good references to work from, or justifications. They can just point at, look, NIST cares about this space. I want to do this too, and maybe get the funding they need from the organization they're part of. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, go back real quick. It'll be emphasized by the slide that you just went to, but here at the bottom, open, transparent, inclusive. That to me is when we put out drafts, when we engage with you, we're trying to give everybody an opportunity, and it doesn't always sync with your attention span of us. We recognize that, but we have lots of different ways to communicate the openness of our work, and we try to be transparent so that you'll recognize what you're coming to do with us or what you can learn from us. And then inclusivity is that we do offer these opportunities and try not to be exclusive, and that we're open to lots of different kinds of inputs. Next slide. And one of the tactics we use is an approach to become a collaborator is that we put the project description that I talked about earlier into a Federal Register notice. And the Federal Register is the government's logistical way of making sure everybody has the opportunity to see what the government needs. And so there's a lot of documents in the Federal Register. It's kind of a fun, if you have a couple extra minutes sometime, go to Federal Register, Google Federal Register, and you'll find it. And it's a government site, and on it we use it to express that we have a project and that we want you to come and engage with us. And then it describes a process that requires organizations, the folks who have technologies that are relevant to that project we've described, the problem we wish to solve. We've identified, we hope, enough of the technologies we think that will make an impact that we're triggering a light bulb to go off, and anybody who has software or hardware to say, I want to come join you. And anyone's a big word, but if you're the company that develops the technology and the hardware and the software that's part of that, we're interested in you submitting a letter of interest to join us and become part of the project team. And that letter triggers a meeting with us. We learn a little bit about you, you learn about us. We reiterate what people often ask, what's the time commitment for this stuff? Well, we start to talk about that. We've described what we've done in other projects and kind of explain that you're coming to join us because you want to help. The CRADA that happens next on the far right here is an agreement, and none of this comes with any funding. We're asking you to join us for free, bring your expertise, because you see the positive impact of doing this together, and that you see the value of working with NIST, and you see the value of bringing your expertise or pushing your product into a space that will allow it to shine in a cybersecurity implementation and privacy implementation as well. So it's a nice open process. Next slide, please. When we're done with these projects, and as we do them, we have lots of ways to connect with you. And this page has images on the left of some of the documentation. We look at the title, Implementing a Zero Trust Architecture. It's a little small on my screen, but that looks like it's a Volume A cover sheet. And Volume A documents in our publications. NIST Special Pub 1800 series is brand new to the center when we established the center several years ago. So we're up into the 30s on our count of the number of kind of pubs we're working on, or in some cases have finished. Volume A of that system is designed to explore at a high level what we're addressing, describe the challenge, describe so you got at the dinner table say, hey, they're doing something here, and this is what they aim to do, and this is why they're doing it. We follow that up with a Volume B that starts to describe what we're bringing together and offer frameworks that will identify the risk being mitigated and kind of extra details that start to dive in and explain why this is the project we're building, what we're building in high level terms, big simple block diagrams. And a full list of who's collaborating with us is something that happens, especially in Volume B, in indicating the technologies that were brought to us through the collaboration and through the CRADAs that we've established. Also, and then Volume C of that publication series, 1800, is a full volume that says, here's all the settings you need to make this system work. And that's a very verbose settings, but it's very informative. And so in some places, and the modularity of those builds can allow copy, can happen in university environments, community colleges, and other places where you can either be inspired. If you have the same technologies, you can do it exactly. If you don't have the same technologies, you can be inspired to try it with your technologies that you may have in hand. So we hope to open up the art of the possible. There are white papers. There are 2-pagers that we take with us to conferences to give out. There are tip sheets we've built in certain areas. We've started making, we have a lot of videos that can be found on our website, and the website is listed at the bottom center of this. So practice guides, tip sheets, white papers. The tactics here are different messaging, different times, different scope and scale, short videos. And then this is an example of one of our learning series webinar. We can pick for our learning series anything that we're doing to share with you, to give you a leg up into what we're doing and try to get you engaged and try to use you as an extra way to reach out to more people. So if you learn about us, you'll start to tell others. And you know, as a government agency, I'm an engineer. I'm not great at the marketing part of this stuff. We've established here at the center a federally funded research and development arrangement with the MITRE Corporation, and they bring the extra talent that in areas that NIST wouldn't necessarily be awesome at. We certainly have some public affairs and expertise, but not here in my engineering part of my life. But now with MITRE, we get outreach and engagement. We get other kinds of expertise that they're able to bring, and this whole list of 5 things and the different kinds of ways we can deliver stuff to you has been growing throughout the lifespan of the center. And we may move into other areas as time goes on, try to figure out where doing work with NIST makes an impact on cybersecurity and risk mitigation and risk management writ large is our goal. Next slide, please. So how to get involved. You found out about this, so hopefully, you know, you're on one of our mailing lists. We have communities of interest that cover the whole of the center and individually each project. So if you care about 5G cybersecurity, you find that page on our website. There's a community of interest sign up form on that. If you care about migration to post-quantum cryptography, if you care about advanced manufacturing cybersecurity, you go to those healthcare IT cybersecurity, you go to those pages, and you volunteer to pay attention, essentially. And we're going to use that community of interest channel to describe the challenges we aim to meet, ask for comments. We're going to ask for contributions when we put out publications, those official publications. We have a public comment period before they end up in a final format. We make open calls to participate in projects through those communities of interest, so that as the project evolves, if there's other ways to get involved and you weren't part of the original, you know, setup of getting to be a collaborator, we sometimes offer future opportunities into that. And we share the project ideas. So now that I'm using that upside down because we also ask you on our website to come to us, and if you have a project idea, you can just throw it into a forum on our website that says, please do think about this space, and we can react to that and kind of think about that as a future planning thing. As you participate in any project, whether you're a creator, collaborator, that level, you're going to be really down and deep. You're going to join us in our lab. You're going to be bringing your technologies, but you're participating in a project as a COI member because you're paying attention and you're helping us get the message out, and you're adding your expertise through comments on anything we post for public comments. And that's true for the publications as well. And we do hold open meetings sometimes to tee up a concept, and then later that becomes a project. So that is definitely true of a project I'm leading on data classification, where data protection, data classification, and zero trust were kind of in there. Zero trust was in its early formational phases of description of what is zero trust. Industry had been using the terms for a little bit. NIST and others have come on and added some of the NIST special pub rigor to the space to say, this is what we believe zero trust is. And now, through data classification and zero trust, we're building stuff. We had those meetings years ago and opened those up as a public come and join us. And these days with the webinar ability, we can reach more people than we used to be able to, in some senses, where we would invite people to come join us here in our brick and mortar building in Rockville, Maryland. So many ways to be involved. I hope as you ask questions of me and Daniel, you'll come back to, like, what does it really mean? Bill, you said a lot of things very quickly. How do I get involved? Well, the question when you ask me that is, you know, who are you and what do you need from NIST? What do you need that you don't have that allows you to be effective in your job? And how can we impact that space? There's a lot of things to connect in there, but I think what we write and what we do and what we show and what we have here can make an impact on your needs. And we believe that, and we hope you stay connected with us. So next slide. We've set up a few videos and technologies allow you to take virtual tours and check us out. So the picture that you're seeing here represents our healthcare IT team giving a tour. And essentially you're seeing an infusion pump on the table there, and our colleague Sue Wang probably is talking about the value of a project we did to provide protections to the earlier models of infusion pumps that didn't necessarily have as many of their own built-in cybersecurity protections. And we have a whole practice guide that focused on that, and a really cool project that brought together the healthcare sector in a good way. And the people who built those infusion pumps were active participants. When we build for function. We don't build to embarrass. We don't build here to do a consumer reports to say this is better than that. We aim to show you cybersecurity by building a system, and then show you all the ways that is happening, and how when we're done there is more security around a device that might not have had a lot of security natively, as I said, built in. So you can check out those virtual tours. We got, I think, 4 of them online, maybe 3, and we will probably continue to grow that space so people can visit us from afar. Next slide. So now we'll head into questions. Daniel, you've got the view of the questions, and I imagine you'll say them out loud, and we'll work through that.
I do, and we definitely encourage you to submit your questions. We haven't received any so far, actually, so please feel free to engage us. We have until 3:40 to engage with you, answer any questions you have. Again, please enter those in the Q&A panel, and we will do our best to address them. While we wait and you submit, I do want to let you know we do have a few upcoming events while we queue up questions on our website. The first one coming up on February 1st is an introduction to draft SP 800-157 Rev 1, derived PIV or PIV credentials in PIV Federation. And so we'll be having an overview of those publications. And then on February 16th, we'll be having an introduction to NCCoE's electric vehicle extreme fast charging cybersecurity profile project. And so that hasn't been posted, but keep an eye out for it. It'll be coming very soon. And so, Bill, now we have some questions coming in.
And this is a personal identity verification card, PIV, and it has my PIV credentials on it, and I can plug it into my computer because there's a slot in my computer and there's a slot on my keyboard. But can I plug it into my phone? No. And so that Rev 1 is interesting because we did a publication 1812 on derived PIV credentials from the first version of 800-157, and those standards are evolving, as Rev 1 will indicate, and it's kind of an exciting space. So now I'll take those cool questions, please.
Yeah, so the first one, could you speak to how companies, or revisit how companies might be able to join a community of interest?
Yeah, why don't you roll back to the Federal Register slide. So repeat the question one more time so I don't go too far. You said community of interest at the end.
How can companies join the community of interest? Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, as a company, you do it as individuals. Although I could imagine if you're a section chief, or you have people who work as direct reports, if you joined our community of interest, you would be getting regular emails from the project, and you could share them within your own team. So everything we do comes out. I think you'll get emails, you'll get invitations to any of the workshops we create and things like that. So we encourage individuals to do it, and as a company, if you have a person who observes and watches a good, an email address that you can register, then they'll see all that and they can share it within the company.
Great.
That makes sense, I hope.
Yep. Now the questions are rolling in for you, Bill. So, do you have a program for cyber awareness for small and medium-sized businesses? So, or how does the NCCoE address small, medium-sized business concerns?
So NIST writ large has a thing called the NIST Small Business Corner, and sorry, maybe it has the word cybersecurity.
Small Business Cybersecurity Corner.
Thank you. Makes sense. And so there's some resources there. As we develop these publications or our white papers or our NIST informational reports, sometimes we're very direct to say we think this solution is best aimed at small and medium businesses because the larger, more funded organizations may already be addressing it, right? So there's a scale and a size sometimes that as we build, we kind of recognize the audience will be small and medium, and so each publication does try to list the audience that we expect to hit. And Daniel, we can prove it at some point, but our website ought to be able to connect when somebody types in small business if we put that in the audience in a publication. This is a challenge to my web team, not mine, our web team. But I think it would work that way in the sense that you could identify which papers we've already written that touch on that. We do leave a lot of room for you to read through some stuff to kind of go, is this relevant to me as a small business? That's tricky because we recognize that small businesses aren't so full of people with extra time on their hands besides their business, drivers of getting their job done and their mission achieved. So it's a little bit of a blend, but we really do value the voice because if you don't know who to speak to in other places to influence, we probably are talking to some of the groups that might be overarching in your industry space, and we can affirm that there's work going on and connect you. So part of what we do when we talk about these projects is we listen for who can be connected, even if they don't become part of the collaboration as a technology provider. There's still something for people to learn from one another.
What is the typical time frame for a project?
Too long. No, it's tricky because we spend a fair amount of time developing the project description, which means we had to spend some time bringing people together to figure out what the project was. And so there's a starting point that where did it start? Well, somebody said, I think we should worry about, or we have a new list from the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program at NIST, where the extension partners across the nation have identified this cybersecurity challenge for manufacturing. And it comes back to us. We hold a workshop, perhaps months, write stuff down, put it in front of people for a month or two, get comments back, get it approved, get it posted. So sometimes, that's 6 months to a year. We'd like to be pretty quick about it, but if we can get it as fast as we can, great. Then once we put it in the Federal Register, we have months of kind of trying to get people to sign up to be technology providers, potentially, if we're getting ahead of the curve and we have some ideas of who we should invite, which groups to go, and make sure that enough people heard about it, we can get our collaboration team built. But then the cooperative research and development agreements take a little bit of legal time, and then the building part, because we're relying on the collaborators and their free time and their expertise without pay. We are a little bit stuck on sometimes how many people can join us when we're working on within a project. We call them work streams to solve something, to build something. So there's some delays there. I think I've seen as lean as 1 year and as long as 3 years. And migration to post-quantum cryptography, for instance, will be the duration of the NIST selection of post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, and then a lot of time that it takes to implement those in industry. There'll be lots of little aspects of what we can do to demonstrate best practices and standards development, interoperability. That project will have long legs, and so they vary. I think if you asked all my colleagues, we'd give you different answers, but 1 year to 3 years.
There was a question about how do we choose which sectors of industry that we highlight? I'm curious why education or higher education is not part of the sectors shown on our earlier slide.
Yeah, so workforce, I mentioned that within the same division where the NCCoE resides, the Applied Cybersecurity Division, we have the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. And so they have the focus on training, education, and workforce, and higher education engagements, and programs that exist like the Centers of Academic Excellence. They're strong communicators with and create the NICE workshop, and at lower levels, the K-12 workshop. So the question then becomes, what do we need to do when we build something to talk about education? And we've tried in a few projects to map essentially the technologies to CSF subcategories, cybersecurity framework subcategories, and then from those subcategories to talk about where that hits in the description of cybersecurity work that's in the NICE framework. I'll admit we didn't get a lot of comments there. So we're open to new ideas. Many of the staff from NICE sit in the same building with us here, and more are coming based on some just building shiftings that we're doing. And so the opportunity to figure out how to make an impact is good. The other part is that we have an academic alliances program that we're trying to engage with. We do engage with universities, and we've got a fair amount of intern arrival each summer, and persisting beyond that, where we're at least promulgating our work through the students who come and join us, and then asking of some of the universities, what are your cybersecurity challenges? That something, by describing what we are to them, how can we partner We haven't grown a lot of those, but that's it. And that doesn't mean that's it. It means, that's where we've started from. And Daniel's been part of that academic alliance conversation. So I welcome your input too, Daniel.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it right there. I think that's great.
Thank you.
So as DHS HQ is prioritizing a move to a cloud strategy on systems and applications, does NCCoE offer resources to assist with closing our technical gap in cloud implementation?
Yes, and so I think that challenge or that gap, come back to us. It's a good question. We'd like to be able to make an impact. So we talk about standards and guidance, and I referenced that we can reference NIST standards and guidance. In cloud, NIST has influenced the FedRAMP program, but it's pretty independent. And then if they need to, they engage, and we have conversations. So NIST has a whole cloud security program, and syncing it with the goals of DHS CISA and other big agencies that are pushing for more and more cloud adoption is clearly happening. I think we can find some aspect of cloud adoption in any of our projects and express it. We're gaining more access to in our lab environment to different cloud environments, so I think we'll be more agile in exploring and talking about that technology as we move forward. But it's an open challenge that I hope maybe you'll come back and fill out one of those. Hey, I want to talk to you guys about what this means, because it's worth not just hearing from me, hearing from some of the other experts about our thoughts about it. That's all I want to say. It's not. We are partners with CISA, DHS, trying to help with what they're asking people to do by showing real world implementations. That's a great kind of project for us to take on.
Oh, here's a great one. Advice on how to handle senior leadership challenging if NIST has credibility in this space. Comments of, I don't subscribe to NIST, quote unquote, and how we can encourage acceptance of NIST as an authoritative source on cyber for the private sector.
Our cybersecurity framework is aimed to enable that conversation, and it's evolving. And those the teammates who are leading that process are part of the same division. We've often referenced, I would say, most every project has some reference to the cybersecurity framework, and then as it gets a little more fine-grained, it goes to security and privacy controls, which your C-suite doesn't really want to talk about necessarily. I mean, they don't want to be oblivious to it. So there is a conversation there that our volume A should help support. I'd like to believe that you could take the cover sheet and walk over and say, NIST cares about this space, so we should too. But that shows that I've been with the government my whole career and I've never been in industry or in your sector. So that's a good messaging question to ask. And when we put out a publication or a description of a publication, if you'd volunteer for the next 2 of those to submit that kind of comment, it will push on each of us in a good way to think about that question. And the question, a lot of this, like, what is the audience? Am I trying to hit managed service providers? When we did retail, trying to figure out who actually implements cybersecurity when you have hotel chains and you have managed service providers and you have different owners of buildings, and it gets very complicated. And so then we pull back sometimes and just talk about the technology. Talking in that conversation space that you're in is the cybersecurity framework. What else can we say about the framework? CSF profiles are designed to tighten that conversation from 108 subcategories to the relevant ones to your space. Is one of the models of a CSF profile, and I think that could help with those conversations. But I think there's still a gap even when I've said that. Over.
Let's see what else we have here. Will this webinar be recorded? There are a few questions about that. Yes, we will be recording this, or we are recording this webinar. We'll be posting it to the event page after the event, along with the slides.
Yeah,
there's a question about privacy. This is National Data Privacy Week. Of course, is NIST working with Congress on the National Privacy Bill? Will the government be using the NIST privacy framework?
So we're part of the executive branch. That's the legislative branch. We have a whole office called Legislative Affairs, and then we have in this division a fair number of folks who have policy expertise with legislation and have been on staffs and things like that. And what that means is when a legislation, a bill is being drafted, we do often get questions of, they ask for our comments. They push to say this is what we want to do, and we do have a give and take on please, that sounds great, it does match with our existing document. Oh, that puts us in a different place than the document's willing to go, and it's hard to express if I say the nistiness of something, but to maintain our non-regulatory status, does our framework, can it be referenced in a bill in a way that doesn't overstate what a framework can do for you, what a security control does for you, or privacy control in this case. So we're always trying to be the explainers in when a bill's being established, and that happens a lot because there's much focus whether whoever controls which parts of every house. Cybersecurity has never dimmed as far as being a focal area. So the answer is we're cognizant, we're aware, we're often asked, and then the question of how they take our input and stuff is that's something for more study.
We had a question. We've had two questions come in about, is NIST open to collaborating with independent contractors and consultants?
Yes. I mean, NIST, the NCCoE, we can invite an individual and their expertise into becoming a collaborator on a project. You still have to submit a letter of interest and express, what you wish to bring to the project. It's done a few times, not as often, not that often. We tend to bring people with technologies onto the projects and then get the subject matter expertise through the workshops that we host and other methods. So it's a little bit of also a question of, what does that mean? How much time do you wish to give? There may be some other mechanisms, but I tend to believe that the workshops that we host around the projects and things like that, that's the place for a sole expert to come to us. And frankly, any expert at any time can say, you guys you're missing the boat, here it comes. And if you do that in a generous way, I read it nicely. And if you do it in a cranky way, I get cranky, but it doesn't matter what I get, we read it. And we respect that, the input has come in. And when public comments come in, we read everyone and react to it. And if your public comments really become expert and make a big change to a document, we will let you know that, in the sense that we probably will want to acknowledge your strong contribution as we go to final. And so that's an opportunity as well.
And can you talk a little bit about the Cooperative Research and Development Agreement, the CRADA, how partners are chosen or selected?
They've submitted a letter of interest because they learned that we're accepting them because of the Federal Register notice, because we've also put out notices on Gov Delivery. We've used the NIST cybersecurity Twitter feed at NIST Cyber. If I get that backwards, Daniel, fix it. And anyway, they've submitted a letter of interest, and we respect each of those and set up meetings and talk to each of the folks who've done that. And we then try to figure out the fit for what we're doing. Sometimes we get convinced of things we didn't think about because their expertise is awesome in a way that complements something we didn't think of. We decide, if we're building, by way of analogy, if we're building a car, I only need 4 tires. If I've already described that the tire has 4, we need 4 tires to roll this thing down the road. So I'm not going to invite every tire company to join us because it's not necessary. If every tire company has something different that we will want to measure as a functional need to improve the performance of that car, by way of analogy again, then potentially I'd invite more than one. So there's a bit of a first come, first serve angle to it as well. We do have to respect that if you're the first one to tell us you have tires and we said we need tires, we're probably going to invite you to the collaboration, and then balance it out with, we're just a couple people strong for each project, and how many people can we manage as collaborators? It varies by project. Sometimes we have as many as 20, and sometimes we have as few as 7 or 5. So I hope that helps. It's not a perfect black and white, here's the threshold. It is amongst there's conversations, there's value to bring, and that leads to potentially, after we had those conversations, a CRADA being offered to you. And the CRADA can be viewed on the website if you want to see what an example CRADA looks like. They're the same. Everybody who signs up for one project gets the same CRADA. so that everybody's coming in recognizing they're going to be working together. So one of the things that I might not have ever said is you don't bring to us proprietary stuff that you don't wish for people to see how it works. We don't reverse engineer it, we don't break it apart, we don't tear it apart, but we run it in our networks, and it might be running with other people's technologies. So there's an openness to your willingness to get it to function in an environment that we agree upon as collaborators to be built. And that's kind of an important step, is that you're not bringing your beta unproduced, untested thing. You're bringing your product that you're selling to your customers today, and we're integrating it or we're leveraging it in a system build.
Along that same line of thinking is a question: are there background checks or vetting on volunteers or contributors from the private sector who contribute to these projects?
The CRADA process involves a full agreement with our technology partnership office. So I don't think we've had anybody who, like, that's a good question. I don't have the perfect answer on that one, in the sense once I asked the technology partnership office to invite a company, I let them run a process that I assume has a little bit of a check to say legitimate, real, and we haven't bumped into that. But it's an interesting question. I'll think about it, and Daniel, you and I can think about, is there a way to express that on our website? I don't think there's anything too hugely formal. And one thing I haven't said is we have had CRADA collaborators from other countries, so we're pretty darn open to this stuff, and we're really not offering anything we think that somebody can exploit by being with us. We're bringing you together for a common good function, and we work with you enough that as a project lead, I have a sense your mission and my mission for this project are the same. So far I don't think we've been fooled, and our networks are all test environments, and they're very well cordoned off from other things. So we're not offering access to anything by joining us, except for the lab environment we're creating for this project.
Bill, you mentioned that you use a standards-based approach to cybersecurity. Do you have an interface with ANSI that provides record copies of the standards in use across the government?
NIST has a lot of conversations and relationships with ANSI, so that question related to our projects here, I don't know that we've needed to dive to a full list like that. And our projects, I think there was a government aspect of that. The standards that also impact other sectors can be addressed, so we can, and those would be covered in ANSI as well, I think, and international standards too. So it's a good point for us to when we say standards and guidance, what can we pull from? Migration to post-quantum is pulling from the standards that are in development by my colleagues in our NIST computer security division. There are other places where we say the framework is the standard, which is really saying that a framework provides the best practice that we think mitigates, gives you the ability to converse about mitigating risk. So how far we dive down there? We did one on we've done MUD, which is IoT manufacturer usage description standard. Where do those come from? We can pull from different sources. It doesn't just have to be ANSI, but interesting thought to sort of figure out, if we wanted to pull a document, a page up about all the different standards that could influence, Daniel, that might be inspiring to people to say, that one, I need that one. And like all NIST standards, ours are public and open and available. Some of the other standards internationally, people have to pay for and things like that. So there's an angle of trying to democratize as we build with standards that anybody can get their hands on. So we've worked with, in the areas of authentication and digital identities, the FIDO Alliance, for instance, because their standards are fully open. PCI, payment card industry, their standards are published, and those can be leveraged as well. Over.
So we have time for this final question. And is NIST currently working on any guidance or documentation aside from 800-171, special publication 800-171, regarding the implementation of CMMC, Cybersecurity Maturity Model? What's the C stand for?
Cybersecurity Capability to Maturity Model. And the fact that both of you and I had to kind of stare up at the ceiling and think about that. So NIST's guidance and 171 is one of the documents as being foundational to the CCMC. Is true, and there are conversations with the authors and our lead for risk management framework that help support what the CMMC team is doing. So it's when people say, "Hey, you're making me be NIST compliant," I sometimes go, "Wait, I don't make you do anything. We're a non-regulatory agency." But clearly, other places say you need to follow this guidance that NIST has written, and they're the ones that decide if you followed it. So that conversation exists between us and the Department of Defense, and it is part of the iteration as they go forward. But it really is the DoD's program, and I don't want to speak too directly to it. And perhaps we should have a learning series with Vicki Piliteri, our risk management framework lead, at some point, and she can dump into what NIST focuses on and how people leverage it is good to know. And CMMC is one area that is taking advantage of a standard.
Most definitely. And with that, we have taken ourselves right to 3:45, where we promised we would end. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today and for that robust conversation. And Bill, I want to thank you for joining me for another learning series. Always a pleasure having you on these.
You're quite welcome. Appreciate all the good questions.
Yeah, there were good questions. And we hope you will engage with us. Visit our website, nccoe@nist.gov. Visit us on social media. Stay engaged, and we'll see you on the next Learning Series webinar. Thanks, everyone.